there goes the store, and we're not in Kansas anymore. But Dorothy thought it odd of God to send a cyclone. I mean, doesn't he have an iPhone? And as if this wasn't already enough heady stuff, an undaunted good witch sauntered out of Abercrombie and Fitch like Holly Golightly, who saw melancholy brightly. She was fit in Prada, lit up like Nevada, begotten dandy like the tart of folklore, but no joke, the other parts were from a cotton candy store. And with grapes in her granola, she was beauty full throttle, shaped like the original Coca-Cola bottle. Though Holly disdained folly so vain, for she was the fabled MGM production, not just cable on liposuction. Now, some winged monkeys who had become Stephen King junkies staggered in with a bong, and a bad witch said, "Please allow me to introduce myself," but it wasn't a Mick Jagger song. Then in utter dread, she didn't stutter when she said, "You willed the twister that killed my sister, so don't oversleep, for I have promises to keep, and your vice will cost, because I am Paradise Lost, not Robert Frost." And you can't revolt her, for the bad witch was the first Ann Coulter, who with no forlorn regret said, "Perhaps you'd like to be born again and sublet." But Dorothy thought, that must be a long sojourn, because nobody's returned yet. However, Oz isn't centrifugal in cyberspace on an app, because you can't just Google this place on a map. Yet in the middle of an ironic yellow brick road, little fellows imparted the Masonic code and said, "The plot is in your heart, not your head." The wizard is a self-taught metaphysician, not just an elf without a position. He got Pink Floyd off steroids and gave Madonna the complete Kabbalah in the backseat of an Impala. Dorothy dared to go, but then got shocked when a scarecrow talked. He said, "If for thoughts we got a penny, there'd be megawatts on my antennae. I'd bottle the inklings of Aristotle thinking and drink from the springs of neon imagination with Ponce de Leon on the wings of transmigration." He sang Nat King Cole, and Dorothy got the thing down from the pole, because though it wasn't Motown, he did have soul. Furthermore, it had rained on a Tin Man's parade, and he remained in a span dismayed, quivering with elastic urgings outside of Joan Rivers' plastic surgeon. And he said, "They got all the parts at Walmart but forgot the heart, so that leaves me no chance to look for make-believe romance on Facebook." On the way round the habitat, they found a stray cat and stopped to yield to sleep as a poppy field reaped. But the paradigm of Oz is deep, because sometimes it's for keeps. Holly now floated on an alluring beam in what seemed surreal and said, "Oh sure, it's just the dream of a sought ideal, but that doesn't mean it's not real." Now, set behooved to get improved, they assembled before the wizard's locked door, but trembled because nobody had the gizzards to knock anymore. Then a clairvoyant man, who had been annoyed with their flamboyant plans, asked if only the brevity of wit had longevity in it to endure such jaunts. But what do you four nitwits want? The dread of late became a probable cause, and Dorothy said, "We're here to see the great Oz." But the psychic traffic tarried in muddy water, because our telepathic hadn't studied Harry Potter. Yet he said, "You see, it's a blue moon, Cinderella, for I happen to be a fortune teller. But I think that we are going to need a balloon to get out of this novella, because nobody meets the master of such vast steepled heights. You people must have been plastered last night." However, the crystal gazer never did faze her, for fame was just an idol who became a title. And as the dramatic story of Oz fell from glory with an emphatic pause, Dorothy asked, "That's no fun. How do you know there is one?" The mystic bent his head as if statistics had been sent and said, "I'm not seeing a lot of odds against there not being a God. And don't you see, the dead is the same no matter how we bet the... If fate ain't a pearl gate and you're not on the list at the door, then you become an atheist, not before." But you couldn't revolt her with ideology until she met John Travolta at Scientology. and ground control to Major Tom Cruise, Dorothy said, "Can't you see I'm wearing the ruby shoes?" The enthralled Saga was as tall as Lady Gaga, and the broker of otherworldly space unfurled it as if it were no mediocre case. "Well, why didn't you say so in the first place, Poker Face?" He had a red wagon and said, "I ain't bragging, but when the ember of our blissful course gets duller, you will always remember this horse of a different color."